Please unmute yourself if you have any questions and something is happening that you want to know. Otherwise, I'll see you in a bit. Okay. All right, stand with your feet pointed straight ahead. Almost all the way in. Just begin by taking a few deep breaths and bringing your body into this space, into the right now. Use the breath to help you stay here. Feel the breath move in and out of your body. And then just notice your weight. What is the sensation of your weight on the floor? And how balanced does that feel today? And if you were to lean back a little bit, does that change it? If you were to shift your hips side to side, do you notice that one shifts more easily than the other? Let's just do a little full body twist. Imagine you're trying to look at somebody behind you and turn and feel, does the twist happen from your ankles to your knees, to your hips, to your shoulders? And the other way, are there sensations that are uncomfortable in any of the joints as you do that? And then as you twist to the other side, do all of the joints twist in the same way? Or do you have a noticing that some part of you doesn't twist as well? Or is a little more stuck? Come back to the center. From here, feet on the floor. Let's go right. Let's start at your feet today. Up on your toes 10 times. If you have something you can easily hold on to and lean back, please do that. If you're just working in space, that's fine. Find that alignment from your feet all the way up. Feel as you go up that you have muscles up your whole leg, all the way up into your hips that help stabilize that thigh bone. Hold it up there. Feel your ankles get strong and stable, down and up. So sometimes when we test a posture, we can notice that there's not a lot of twist in one area, and that gives us a sense that maybe there's not enough space between the joint, maybe there's too much contraction or compensation in some place or another. Then take your feet, turn them out. Same thing, up on your toes and down. Feeling the whole hip bone move out, and maybe that feels like your tailbone gently moves down toward the floor. There's a natural relaxing as you're, or tucking as your hips move outward. Your butt muscles can squeeze together a little bit more naturally just because of the position of the head of the femur in the hip socket. And that should help open. Butt muscles oppose these hip flexors in the front. So there could be a relaxing of the hip flexors just by turning the legs out. And then in, pigeon toe your feet. And then just stand here for a moment and feel it. Feel, do you have more sensation around one hip than the other? Can you bring your weight to the inside of your feet? Really feel your big toes. Maybe you have sensations in your knee. If you have a knee that doesn't turn as well or doesn't have quite as much space, maybe the sensation is in your knee and all the way up into the hip. Just feel that. And then go ahead and add your lifts up on your toes. So we can do toe raises for anybody that we see some kind of rotation in the lower leg or in the hip or pelvis or even up into the shoulders and neck. We're going to go through those one more time. Back to straight, softening slightly at your knee, up onto your toes, 10 times. Feel your toes press down into the floor so the whole bottom of your foot, all the way where the muscles behind your calf wrap up and around behind the knee. Let's go 80% of your weight on one side, 20% of your weight on the other, and just do toe raises there, really working those calf muscles. And switch. And just feel from one leg to the other. So I'm up on the left toes, working that right leg, feeling the muscles up the back of the calf really work to help stabilize the lower leg into the upper leg. Then back to straight, 10 more. And then turn your feet out so that they're pointed out like a ballerina. Feel the whole femur bone rotate outward, and again, lift. And do you feel it on the same place on the inside of your hips? Now, if you had a labral tear in one of your hips, which is common, then maybe the head of the femur doesn't stabilize quite as well because it isn't like cinched down so much. So we want to really work all these places so that you can feel the muscles help stabilize, since the labrum doesn't do some of the stabilizing for you. Turn them in. Bring the weight to the inside of your feet and lift. Good. And then down, we're going to go into a bent knee position. So hips back, and then go after the soleus. So the soleus works better. That's the muscle underneath the calf. It works better when your knees are bent. So go up onto your toes. Find your body stabilizing there. Find the calf muscle that's underneath that gastroc. It also stabilizes the position of the ankle and the knee, and then heels down. You can just hold your hands up. Take it up and release 10 times. And then hover your heels just slightly off the floor. This time we're going to go after more of the quad. So let's take your arms up to the sky. Imagine you're sliding down the wall. So if you were here, you'd be a little bit away from the wall. Slide down the wall so your upper body has to keep moving into extension as you go down. So think of keeping that up. Knees down, hips back, and then stand back up. Heels hovering above the floor. Strong ankles, strong calves, all of what we just worked on. Make that work for you. Bend into hip flexion. Find hip flexors, tailbone back behind you. Upper body really open, and stand up. Again, 8 more. And release. Good, now let's go after that lateral hip, arms out to the side. Find your balance on one foot. Take that leg out to the side as far as you're able to, keeping your upper body really stable. Bring that leg back down. Lift and lower. and 10. Good. Switch sides. Side leg lifts. First side again. Second side. Now first side again. This time bend your knee so that it's down. So you're taking the muscles across the front of the hip and the knee. Bend that knee. It's going to want to pull your back into some extension. Then add a little bit of abdominal support there to keep it really stable. Lift your knee high to the sky. Imagine you're holding a ball between your lower leg and your upper leg and bring it down. So those muscles behind the knee are really working as you bring that leg out to the side and up. And then switch. Second side, bend that leg. Grab something like you're holding a ball between your lower leg and your upper leg. If you get a hamstring cramp, that's pretty common. Hold it up there, and then 10 lifts out to the side and back down. And release. Feet back to stable. Back to the upper body. Big shoulder rolls up and back and around. And then right into an elbow curl. Fold your fingers to your palms. Let's go elbow curls differently today. So instead of hands at your temples, just hands out in front of you. One at a time, all the way out to the wall. Everything else stable. So trunk stable. Just the elbow gets to do that motion, wrapping around your rib cage. One side, let's do 10. And then switch. Taking it out, wrapping it around that rib cage, keeping your trunk stable as you move. And then both at the same time, out and together. Feel those shoulder blades wrap around your back. Do they feel the same on both sides? Can you feel your legs, quads, hamstrings, adductors, abductors? A little bit of stabilization around the whole entire leg, hugging toward the midline, muscles in toward bone, creating that stability. And release. Excellent. Come down onto your back. Grab your block just so that you can hold it between your knees and keep some stability at the adductors. So knees and feet stable. Squeeze in on that block. And then roll your arm bones so that it's like you're opening and closing a doorknob. Just the arm bone in the shoulder gets to do that motion. So really roll it. For those of you with sore rotator cuffs, this can be a good one to just gently work the rotator cuff without having to stabilize too much in the shoulder in other places. So let that whole arm rotate all the way under and all the way up. Same thing with the rotator cuff or the labrum in the shoulder. Some of us have little tears in the labrums, which mean that the arm bone doesn't stay as stable in the socket. It means there's a little extra movement, which can lead down the road to arthritis and things like that. So it's our job then to work those rotator cuff muscles as best we can so that the shoulder is as stable as possible without part of the labrum. Nice. Now bring your arms up, squeeze your shoulder blades onto your back, and then press them apart. Let your back round into the floor. There should be some space between your lower back and the floor. Let your upper back round so that you're finding these muscles on the side, the serratus, the muscles that pull the shoulder blades off your back, these stabilizing muscles here, and then retract or protract toward your spine and away from your spine. Squeeze and release. Squeeze, press. Squeeze, press. Feeling the rounding in your spine stay stable as your shoulders do that motion. So really pressing your rounded upper back into the floor. Good, and then elbows down by your side, and then just turn your palms so that they're facing up toward you, and then flip them over so that you're working into the elbow. You can take your shoulders and gently tuck them under your back so that your shoulder blades are flat, collarbones gently upward, and then let that all relax. Still heavy in your upper back to the floor, slight curve in your lower back with that gentle squeeze at your knees, stabilizing your pelvis. And then flip your hands over and up 10 times. Flip, up, wrists stable and straight. Just find the muscles at the elbow joint to do that rotation. And notice if the shoulder wants to help. As those elbow muscles start working, let the pec relax. Let some of the muscles in the front of the shoulder that may want to help chill out. Good. Take that into a wrist movement. Down and up. And just ask that the muscles in your forearms that move into your hands come into good alignment. Let's work your fingers a little bit. Curl your fingers in and open them way back up. Spread them way out. Curl them in, out. Can you get your hands to spread as far as possible? Can you even notice if the webbing between one finger or another is tighter? Or between your thumb and your forefinger from all that phone thumbing we do? Bring them in again, open them way up. And then with them really open, can you move your wrist? And then hold them really open, move the elbow, stabilize the wrist. And then drop your arms out to the side, go into that external rotation. And back in, out and in, just moving in the shoulders 10 times. Do the same thing like a goal post now. Place your elbows up so that your arms are straight out from your shoulders, and then drop your hands back. You can rotate them slightly in to get that internal rotation to happen. Notice if the shoulder wants to lift way off the floor, and you may need to engage some muscles like an anti-shrug on the back side of your shoulders while the arm bone separates from the shoulder to get to do that internal rotation. And then back. Good. Feel the muscles in your middle back stabilizing the shoulder blade while the arm bone gets to move down. Move that slowly again. External rotation. internal rotation. Excellent. Arms down at your sides, relax your whole arm bone. Feel your middle back gently press down into the floor again. Rock up onto your toes and back onto your heels. All the way up, all the way back. Ten more. Go into hip flexors, lifting your feet off the floor slightly, and just feel where's the balance between hip flexors working, lumbar extensors working, maintaining that little bit of space in your lower back and down. You could even slide your hands under your low back. It's okay in your shoulders to help maintain that space while you lift and lower. Lift and lower. See if you can do this and take deep breaths. Just about at 20. And then feet on the floor. Find that neutral position again. Squeeze in on your block 20 times. And then take that away. Go into a frog, bottom of your feet together. Let your knees drop out to the side. Let the pull of your femurs pull your pelvis into a little bit more extension, a little more arch. Letting your legs just relax. Let's add pullovers to this. Interlace your fingers. Reach your arms over your head, touch the floor above you, and back up. Five more. And then with your hands just on your hips, let your feet rotate up toward your toes. So your heels come off the ground and then heels on the ground, toes up. And just do like a rocking chair like that, and it will move into your hip even more. As long as there's no discomfort, it's rotation in the knee, and that should talk all the way up into that hip. And then bring your legs in. Pelvic tilts. Rock your back to flat. Go ahead and gently press it down and then roll it up, put an arch in your back. Going between those two places. Feel all the way on the inside of the pelvic bowl, pelvic floor squeezes as the tailbone comes closer to the pubic bone. Sit bones squeeze together. Let that whole inner pelvic floor work. And then as you go up, let the tailbone move away from the pubic bone. Sit bones move away from each other. Let that expand, and then all the way inside muscles. Those tie right into the fascia, into your lumbar spine, and they definitely play a role in the position of what's going on at the pelvis. Go ahead and come up to, let's go into your belly. So once again, if just being on your belly is challenging, you can always place a pillow underneath your stomach, which will take a little bit of the curve out of your back. But for lots of people, being here is okay as soon as you take a few deep breaths. But notice the alignment of your rib cage. So a lot of us have maybe a pelvic rotation and a rotation in the rib cage. And just being on our bellies can help stabilize the rib cage because it's on the floor. So tuck your front ribs under. Let there be a little bit of rounding in your thoracic back. Put your hands underneath your forehead. And just take 3 full deep breaths and be right here as you follow your breath. Expand your ribs in an east to west direction and let it pull on the diaphragm so that it pulls on the psoas from the inside of your leg up to your low back. And just let that gently move. If there's facets that need to move into a better position, those are the vertebrae, the little connecting joints on the side of each vertebrae that slide together but can also become arthritic, especially if you've had a disc issue sometime in your life. Okay, that should be about 3. Now, let's go to our upper body first. So put your hands behind your head, and I just want you to rest your forehead on your head. You're going to lift your elbows off the floor. So elbows up, just hold them up there, and then release them back down. Let's do 10 of those. Elbow lift, off the floor, hugging shoulder blades up onto your back. Rib cage stays stable on the ground. Take a deep breath. Release. Lift. Find those muscles. Notice if they're different between the right shoulder and the left shoulder. See if you can start to get the same muscles to work for you. Release. Lift. And lower. Lift. And lower. Lift. Lower. Couple more. Nice. Now bring them up to like cactus arm position. Slide one arm at a time over your head and then bring it down. And then over your head and down. So glides. Let the whole shoulder go up by your ear and then bring that whole shoulder down toward or elbow down toward your hip. Reach all the way up. Let the whole slide happen and down. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Reach and lower. Notice what your rib cage is doing. Can your ribs just stay stable while the whole shoulder girdle does its glide? Excellent. Hands now by your sides. If this is okay for your body, take a mini cobra. Shoulder blades down, away from your ears. Begin to press up into a mini cobra. And breathe. And release. Fold your hands under your forehead again. Tuck your ribs, find that stability in your trunk, and then bend your right leg up toward the sky. You're gonna lift that knee up. Let's go toes pointed for right now. So really find the bottom of your foot, squeeze the bottom of your foot like you're squeezing the pinky toe and big toe towards each other, making a hollow on the whole inside of the foot. And then lift your knee off the floor, find your butt muscles and your hamstrings, but your butt muscles are really what I want you to find the most. Even if you have to turn your knee out to the side a little bit to find them, see if you can really find those glutes. Not just that your front hip dug into the floor, but that you can find your butt muscle so the head of the femur stays stable in that hip socket, and then that leg lifts to the sky. And it's not a big lift, 2 inches maybe. Lift and lower, 10%. Good. Rib cage stable, pelvis stable. Use the floor to help hold your hip bones stable as you lift that leg up and release. Lift, release. And second side. Curl it up. Point your toes, squeeze the bottom of your foot so much that the pinky toe and big toe are creating a hollow in the middle of your foot. Arch, squeezing. Then lift that leg off the floor just a little bit. Pelvis stable by the floor, rib cage stable by the floor. Relax your upper body, release it down. Lift. Notice again, does your hip bone just want to dig into the floor? Can you use a little bit of abdominal support so that that hip bone's not going anywhere? Lift and lower. And release. This time, turn the leg all the way so knee is out, and then lift it up. Just hold it up there. Find that external femur rotation and your butt muscle. Lift that leg up, set it back down. Lift, lower, 10 times. And release. Second side. Fold it in. 10 lifts. And then press back onto your hands and knees. Cats and dogs. Round and arch. And then come up to kneeling. Grab your strap. Place your strap around your feet, around your ankles. And then in this position, see if you can feel what's tight. Are you Does your body want to stay in this really big extended hip flex position, or can you get to neutral? Where are you? Just notice. And then pull out on the strap with your ankles. Press and release. Just time in this position will help the muscles that cross the hip and the knee open, because you're asking them to work in this lengthened position. It's not a position, certainly not a position they work when you're sitting at your desk all day. Not that many of you do, but even if you're in hip flexion a lot, so asking this lateral hip to stabilize for us right now, some of the lower leg muscles around the knee. See if your pelvic floor will turn back on a little bit here. So the muscles that would stop your pee, can you access those? And does it feel like your pelvis starts to come to a more neutral position just all by itself? Press, release. Let's go 10 more. So technically this would be an internal rotation of the femur, but we're using it more like an isometric, and you should be able to feel it in your glute medius and minimus on the sides of your body. And that can help, again, pull this pelvis into a better position. And then take the strap off. Now we'll go to other glutes. Put the block between your ankles and squeeze in. Again, moving that femur around in the hip socket a little bit. Squeeze your big toes against that, especially if you have feet that go out and kind of walk like a duck. You can even feel that same place where the bottom of the foot can squeeze together so that the arches, the muscles can hug up into the inside of that foot. And then squeeze the big toes together and feel it all the way up into the deep six and into the glutes. And just notice again, can your pelvis come to a more neutral position? Pelvic floor turned on. And then notice what's your upper back doing? Are your shoulders rounded? Let's go into an overhead extension here, into that thoracic back a little more, reaching up. So muscles, short lever from the knee into the pelvis, thigh having to open, thoracic back having to open, shoulders down, look up, find the back of the neck, open up that jaw, elbows really strong and straight. And relax. And then come all the way back to standing. And just check the alignment. How different does that feel? As you come into standing, feel your feet. Where are you? How is that? And then let's go into a sitting floor today to end. So sit. If you have a wall, sit with your back against the wall. If you don't, you could just sit with your legs out in space. If you're against the wall, your hip flexors get a little bit of a break because of the back being supported by the wall. If you're holding yourself in space, your hip flexors are working really hard. So feel your legs straight out in front of you. Pull your ankles back, pull the outside edges of your feet back so that that puts the ankle into a mild locked position. And then access your vastus medialis, the muscle on the inside of your knee, to tighten your thighs, all thigh muscles active. And then really squeeze those thighs a lot. Hands at your lap, tuck your shoulders in that anti-shrug, down your back, and hold it. We're going to hold it here for the full 3 minutes. So hang in there with me. Legs out, ankles pulled back, thighs tight. You can even press the thigh bones at the hip down into the floor so that they're back in the hip socket. That may move your hips into a bit of a different position. You may even need to shift again so that your butt is back toward the wall even more if that changes as we're here. Really crank those ankles, outer edges of the feet, pulling back, holding the ankles in really good alignment. Thighs staying really tight. This is a kinetic chain exercise that we do. So ankles in line with hips, in line with knees. That translates up into the pelvic position and shoulder blades also. Keep hanging out here. You got one more full minute. Keep pulling your feet back, tightening your thighs. If you want, you could add an arm glide to this. So as your shoulders pull down and back, come to cactus arms. Some people may just feel that added middle back activation if they just push their fingernails back toward the wall. That would activate the mid trap. If you just hold that and press fingernails, if that's an area of your body that you know doesn't turn on so well, that middle back. If you feel like you've got that working now, you could glide your arms all the way up and down. Keep pulling that ankle back, thighs staying super tight, all the way up, all the way down. And release. Release your legs. And then come into whatever position you would like to be in for our meditation. Sitting, lying down, legs over your block and static back, you choose today. So, over this last bit of time, I've been introducing you to this place in yourself that is peaceful, joyful. And that place tunes your whole body to be able to come back to it. There's a congruency, or just allowing yourself to simply drop back from the chatter of your mind, or the past, or the future, when we're thinking in those instead of being here in the present moment. So as you gently bring your attention first to your body, wherever it's resting on the floor, and then to breath, and then continue to drop back to this place of stillness. So bring your attention to the space between my words. Notice that your senses stay intact. And then notice what arises in this space. Sometimes what arises is shame, worry, joy, sadness. Just simply notice. And then let that too just move like a cloud moves over the blue sky in the space. Keep coming with me to this big sense of open space. Give your attention to the joyful peace that rests in this silence. There's no effort in this space. So if you notice that you're holding tension or making effort to arrive at a space, let that go too. we continue to tune our beings to have access to this space, we bring more peace into our bodies, into our being. We know this place that we can rest in. Feel your body on the floor. Be more conscious of the breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And then if you'd like to visit for a moment, please unmute your computer.
Thanks, Kyra.
Thank you, Kyra.
You're welcome.
Really good.
Thanks, Kyra.
You're always incredible. Thank you, Kyra, very much.
You're welcome. How'd that feel today?
Beautiful for me. Just beautiful. Just what I needed.
Good.
Like you're tuning all the strings.